Ever wondered what a moving fortress on tracks would look like? Welcome to War Machines Chronicles, and today we're diving into the story of a true titan, a legend of military engineering that was both awe-inspiring and utterly insane. The Panzerkampfwagen VIII, better known as the Mouse. Picture this. It's 1942. The war is raging, and Germany is looking for a superweapon, a game-changer that can dominate any battlefield. The call goes out for a tank so powerful, so heavily armored, that it would be practically indestructible. And who answers this call? None other than Ferdinand Porsche, the man whose name you associate with sleek sports cars. But this time, he wasn't designing for speed. He was designing for sheer brute force. The project was simple in its goal, but monstrous in its execution. Create a super-heavy tank that could smash through enemy lines and withstand anything thrown at it. The result was the Mouse, a name that ironically means mouse. But this was anything but small. It was a behemoth, a land battleship born from the wildest dreams of German engineers. So, just how big was this thing? Let's talk numbers, because they are staggering. The Mouse weighed in at an earth-shattering 188 tons. To put that into perspective, that's heavier than 3 modern M1 Abrams tanks combined. It was over 10 meters long, almost 4 meters wide, and stood taller than a single-story building. This wasn't just a tank, it was a mobile bunker. And the armor? It was designed to be impenetrable. At its thickest point, the Mouse had 240 millimeters of steel plating. In the 1940s, there was virtually no anti-tank gun in the Allied arsenal that could reliably punch through that. It was built to absorb punishment and keep on fighting. To operate this beast, it required a crew of 6 brave men, sealed inside what was essentially a rolling steel crypt. Now, a fortress is useless without firepower, and the Mouse was armed to the teeth. Its main weapon was a massive 128mm KWK-44 cannon, one of the most powerful anti-tank guns of the entire war. This gun could obliterate any enemy tank from kilometers away, but that wasn't all. Mounted right next to it was a secondary 75mm cannon, perfect for dealing with smaller targets or fortified positions. And for infantry, it had multiple MG-34 machine guns. The Mouse was designed to be the ultimate predator, capable of engaging and destroying any target it encountered on the battlefield. So, we have a tank with impenetrable armor and devastating guns. It sounds unstoppable, right? Well, here's where the dream starts to clash with reality. Powering a 188-ton monster requires an incredible engine. The Mouse was fitted with a massive Daimler-Benz V12 aircraft engine, which sounds impressive. But even with all that power, the tank's top speed was a sluggish 20 kilometers per hour, and that was on a good day, on a flat road. Off-road, it crawled at a walking pace. This incredible weight created a whole new set of problems. The most obvious one? Bridges. There was simply no bridge in Europe at the time that could support the weight of the Mouse. So how was it supposed to cross a river? The engineers came up with a truly wild solution. It would have to go underwater. The Mouse was designed to be completely sealed and use a snorkel for air intake, allowing it to drive along the riverbed. But here's the crazy part. It couldn't power itself underwater. It needed a second Mouse on the riverbank, connected by a long cable, to provide the electrical power needed to drive the submerged one across. You needed 2 of these super tanks just to get one across a river. The logistical nightmare was just beginning. Transporting the Mouse was another huge headache. It was too heavy for most roads and too wide for standard railway cars. A special, custom-built 14-axle railcar had to be designed just to move it from the factory to the front lines. And its fuel consumption. It was astronomical. The Mouse drank fuel like it was water, giving it a very limited operational range and making it a logistical black hole. So, why did the Mouse ultimately fail? The reasons are a perfect storm of impracticality. It was too slow to keep up with the fast-paced armored warfare of the time, making it an easy target for coordinated attacks. While its armor was thick, it was incredibly vulnerable to air attacks. A few well-placed bombs from Allied aircraft would have turned this expensive giant into a smoldering wreck. Furthermore, the cost of producing even one Mouse was immense, consuming resources that Germany desperately needed for more practical and proven weapons. In the end, Only 2 prototypes were ever built, and neither of them ever saw a single moment of combat. As the war drew to a close, the Germans destroyed the prototypes to prevent them from falling into enemy hands. The Soviets later captured the remains, piecing together one complete vehicle from the salvaged hulls and turrets of the 2 prototypes. Today, this lone survivor stands as a monument in the Kubinka Tank Museum in Russia. It's a testament to an era of engineering ambition that pushed the very limits of what was thought possible. The Panzer VIII Maus remains to this day the largest and heaviest tank ever built. It was a weapon of incredible power, born from a vision of total battlefield dominance, but it was ultimately a giant that was too big, too slow, and too impractical for the world it was meant to conquer. A fascinating failure, but a legend nonetheless. Thanks for joining us on War Machines Chronicles. If you were fascinated by the story of this steel behemoth, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into the history of incredible war machines. See you next time.